MLS season preview, all things MLS, my picks, my predictions, everything about this season coming up. Glad to have you all here hanging with me for this episode of the Sons of a Pitch, an American soccer podcast. Let's get right into it here and get started. So a little bit into the MLS season coming up starting on April 16th. I'm getting ahead of myself, behind myself, because it's weird. I was actually thinking about it today when I was putting together the show notes for this episode. Now, some of the newcomers to watch this season for MLS, a lot of big names, and there's a trend with these names for the newcomers here for MLS. And with that being said, let's get into that list. So number one on the list is Brenner from FC Cincinnati. Young man was touted very highly by a lot of clubs in Europe, and now he is being looked at and signed by FC Cincinnati. And we've got Jay Jardim on. What's up, Mike? Round two. How you doing, Jay? Glad to have you hanging out. Yes, round two it is. All right, so then we've got also on the list Alexander Pato, who is with Orlando City, was brought in by Orlando City. Definitely had a few offers on the table from Europe, but excited to see what Pato can bring to Orlando City, who's replacing Daryl Dike, although he may end up coming back and playing after his time is up with Barnsley, but I doubt it. So Alexander Pato, good pickup by Orlando City. Look out for him this season in MLS. Atlanta United brings in a couple highly touted South American kids, Lisandro Lopez and Santiago Sosa. Excited to see what they can do for Atlanta United this season. So those are two newcomers to watch in MLS. Also, brand new club, Austin FC, bringing in Cecilio Dominguez, designated player. Excited to watch him play as well. Remember watching him in his Club America days in the CONCACAF Champions League, which if you have not done so yet, go check out our CONCACAF Champions League 2021 preview and prediction show, talking all things CCL, and myself and Ryan Anderson. So shout out to Ryan Anderson as well on that one. Now, also Alexandru Matan with the Columbus Crew. He was expected to go to New York City and ended up with the Crew. So a big pickup there for the Crew. Excited to see what that young man will bring. Also, Rodrigo Pinheiro of Nashville SC. Excited to see what he does for Nashville and how Nashville will do this season. And again, make sure you stay tuned all the way to the end of this episode so that you can see my predictions of the teams that are going to make the playoffs. And then I'm going to give you my MLS Cup champion tonight. My picks and predictions for the entire MLS season. Lastly on the list, Jose Carlos Van Rankin out of Portland. Excited to see this young guy come up from Chivas, Guadalajara, down in Mexico. I think he'll do big things for the Timbers. All right, so let's get into some of the awards here for this season, projected awards. It's fun to go back and see what these look like at the end of the season. And I'll tell you, my picks from last year, not very pretty. And either were Nick's. Unfortunately, miss you, Nick, not being here with us. But my picks for the awards as they go this season, starting out with the most valuable player, the Landon Donovan Most Valuable Player Award. My pick in this one is Joseph Martinez. I think Joseph Martinez is going to come back guns blazing for the Atlanta United. I expect a big season from Atlanta this year, and you'll see that later on in the episode as well with my picks and predictions. But you're going to see Atlanta doing really well this year, and Joseph Martinez is going to be a big part of that. Coming off that horrible injury last season, he's back. He has a lot of good young talent around him. I expect him to be the most valuable player at the end of this season. Now, moving to the Defender of the Year award. Defender of the Year, there's a couple players that I see. Obviously, you've got Walker Zimmerman, who won it last year. But looking at this list of this season and some of the defenders, I always like to look at the wingbacks. And for me, I think the wingback that's going to get this award is going to be Anton Tinnerholm of New York City FC. ever since he came to NYCFC, he has set the league on fire as probably one of the best wingbacks in the league, if not the best. And I expect him to win Defender of the Year this season for New York City and for the league to win Defender of the Year. Now, Goalkeeper of the Year, moving into that award, this one, the winner last year, Andre Blake. I picked Andre Blake to be the winner of that award last season, and how can you not pick him to do it again? Andre Blake, to me, is probably the best goalkeeper in MLS, hands down. I think Matt Turner comes close. I think there's a couple other good goalkeepers in MLS, but for me, it's Andre Blake, Goalkeeper of the Year. It's hard to repeat, but I picked him last season. It was the only one I think that I picked, and it picked correctly, so I'm going with him again, and that's that. So I'm going with Andre Blake as Goalkeeper of the Year. Now, to Coach of the Year. For me, you might think it's a little bit biased, a little bit of a homer pick, but I'm going with Chris Armas for Toronto FC. He's walking into a Toronto FC team that is not his team. He has not signed anybody since he came in. Ali Curtis and Chris Armas are working with the exact same team they had last season. A lot of talent, a very good team, but there is still a lot of room to grow. And I think Chris Armas will be able to transform TFC and win a lot of games and possibly do some work in the summer and have a very good season for TFC. So my pick for Coach of the Year is Chris Armas, head coach of Toronto FC. Now for the Golden Boot, this kind of swings back to the MVP race a little bit. Golden Boot with, I would assume, probably anywhere from around 22 to 25 goals. I see Joseph Martinez winning the Golden Boot this season with Atlanta United. He is my MVP pick, and I expect him to score tons of goals. If he's going to win MVP, he's going to have to score tons of goals, and I think he will, to be the Golden Boot winner for MLS. All right, so let's talk a little bit about a best 11. MLS best 11 for the 2021 season. I go with the formation of 3-4-3 because you never – in MLS, it's funny. Usually they'll do either a 3-4-3 or a 3-3-4 formation for the best 11. I'm going with the 3-4-3. It's a little bit more realistic, although I still think it should go the normal 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3 setup. But we'll go with the 3-4-3 just for fun. And for me, best 11 in MLS this season, the goalkeeper, obviously Andre Blake being my pick for Goalkeeper of the Year. Then on defense, I see the Defensive Player of the Year, Anton Tinnerholm, former Defensive Player of the Year, Walker Zimmerman, and Richie Larea of Toronto FC as being those three players that'll make the MLS best 11 for 2021. Now to the midfield, I've got reigning most valuable player, Alejandro Pozuelo, Jimmy Chara, Nico Ladero, and Ezequiel Barco. In the midfield, I really see Barco coming out. This is his season. You go back, check out the Atlanta United season preview that I did. You will see that I really expect big things out of Ezequiel Barco and Atlanta this season. Nico Ladero, how can you not have him on this list? The man is a beast and has been ever since he came over to the Sounders. Jimmy Chara is playing for a very good Portland Timbers team. I think if he stays healthy, he is best 11 quality. And Alejandro Pozuelo, enough said. The man assists, led the league in assists last year. He scores tons of goals. The man is unbelievable. And your reigning Landon Donovan MVP award winner. So that's my midfield for the best 11. Now for the forwards, the three forwards up there, I've got Joseph Martinez, obviously, as being my pick for the Golden Boot, as well as for MVP. So Joseph Martinez as well. I've got Carlos Vela as a forward there. And Brenner. I think newcomer Brenner is really going to have a big season for Cincinnati. Moving into that new stadium, the big unheralded signing of the season, I think Brenner does extremely, extremely well. Now for the man, we got Rocky Does It All. Says Yimmy or Jimmy. Heck yeah. And Brother BKL. Hey, Mike, let's talk about it. Amen, Brother BKL. Thanks for jumping on. And same to you, Rocky. Thanks for coming and hanging out here for episode 179 / MLS season preview. All right, now moving down to the projected playoffs. These are the teams that I think will make the playoffs. Guys, check out that join button down below. We've got a join option here on Sons of a Pitch, an American Soccer podcast. We've got the designated player level and the starter level, $1.99 for the starter level. Get your name featured in the scroll in all of our live streams, whether it's podcast episodes, live stream reaction watch-alongs, or anything else we do live. Loyalty badges and custom emojis. And we've got, for the designated player level, all the starter perks that I just mentioned, plus members-only lives, discounted merchandise, and your name in the description. Join the best group of soccer fans in America right here on YouTube and help support Sons of a Pitch, an American soccer podcast. Projected playoff positioning. So I'm going to give you my breakdown for the East and the West, 1 through 7, on how I think they will shake out. So in the Eastern Conference, starting out at number 7, just barely getting into the playoffs, I see that spot going to the Philadelphia Union. Number 6, Orlando City SC gets into the playoffs. Oscar Pareja. I think if they still had Daryl Dikane, it was a guarantee that he's coming back. I would put them a little bit higher, but Orlando City is a very good team in the East. Number 5, New York City FC. Number 4, New England Revolution. Number 3, Toronto FC. Number 2, the Columbus Crew. And number 1, Atlanta United. So that's how I've got the top 7 teams in the Eastern Conference making the playoffs. Just to recap, Atlanta, Columbus, Toronto, New England, New York City, Orlando City, and Philadelphia are my 7 playoff teams in the Eastern Conference. All right, now moving over to the Western Conference. Number 7, the LA Galaxy are going to get into the playoffs. I see Greg Vanney being able to turn things around for the Galaxy fairly quickly and at least get them into the playoffs. Do I expect them to do much in the playoffs? Absolutely not, but I think they will get there. Right in the 6th spot ahead of them is the Colorado Rapids. I really like Robin Fraser and that team. I think they have the potential to do some damage this year, and I think they will make the playoffs. Number 5, Minnesota United FC. Excited to see what Minnesota can do this season with a full season of Reynoso pulling the strings as the 10. Number 4, Sporting Kansas City. Number 3, LAFC. Number 2, Seattle Sounders. Seattle always, every year, they're in the playoffs. I don't expect them to miss. This year, they come in as the 2 seed in the Western Conference. Now, for the winner of the Western Conference, the number 1 seed, none other than the Portland Timbers. I really see Portland as a very strong team this season. Lot of depth, a lot of depth, and I think that will do very well for them in the Western Conference and taking the Western Conference crown in the regular season. So that takes us next to the Supporters Shield. So the winner of the most point total in MLS through the regular season, it can only be one of my 2 teams that I picked, either Portland out of the West or Atlanta out of the East. And for me, I see that going to Atlanta United. I think Atlanta United is going to bounce back in a big way this season. There's the one trophy that they have not won is the Supporters Shield. They've won MLS Cup. They've won US Open Cup. They've won some other championships as well. The Campeones Cup, if you want to qualify that as a championship. So I like Atlanta to get that Supporters Shield done this season with Gabriel Heinze. I know it's a new coach. It's a big-time prediction, but for some reason I've got a bad feeling about Atlanta. I say bad because I'm a TFC guy. But I think Atlanta is going to do really well this season. So Portland or Atlanta for the Supporters Shield. I'm going Atlanta, and Portland will just have to take the number 1 seed in the West as consolation there. All right, so now moving down the list to the U.S. Open Cup, my projection for the U.S. Open Cup, and again, this is going to be a little bit different this season, where we have the U.S. Open Cup coming in and going to be the first 6 or 7 or 8 teams, I can't remember the exact number, that are in the lead in the standings in MLS points-wise, that are American-based teams, will qualify for the U.S. Open Cup. So this all could change if every team was in. My projection is Minnesota United to get it done. I think they will put a lot of effort behind the U.S. Open Cup this season, and I like Minnesota as a team to get that done. So my pick for the U.S. Open Cup, and again, it may change because they might not even get in based on the new setup on the tournament this season, but my pick, Minnesota United to win the U.S. Open Cup. So since we just talked U.S. Open Cup, we've got to move to the Canadian Championship. So the Canadian Championship, this one, we don't even know what the format is going to be for the Canadian Championship. The 2020 Canadian Championship final hasn't even been played. Technically, the spot was awarded to Toronto FC to play in the Champions League, but it was supposed to be a game between Forge FC of Hamilton of the CPL against Toronto FC in the Canadian Championship final for 2020. That game never happened. So we don't know if it's ever going to happen. But the Canadian Championship for 2021, if it's the same exact format, to me, there's no chance that a CPL team or a one of the provincial leagues gets the victory. So for me, it's between Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal. Montreal is a train wreck. Vancouver, not far behind them, although I do expect them to do better with Marc Dos Santos in his third season. But my pick for the Canadian Championship, none other than Toronto FC. I think they get it done and win the Canadian Championship again. Well, technically again, but not really, because we don't know if they won 2020 yet, but technically they did because they got the CCL spot. Anyways, it's tricky, but TFC, my pick for the Canadian Championship final. All right, so that takes us down to the MLS Cup final. My predictions for MLS Cup final, I'm going to give you the final matchup itself and then who the champion will be. So for me, going through all the different scenarios with the 7 teams in the Eastern Conference, I see in the first round, Columbus and Philadelphia. I think Columbus gets through. Toronto FC and Orlando City. I think Orlando upsets Toronto. New York City and New England. I think New York City wins. That would put a matchup of Orlando against Atlanta, and then New York City against Columbus. I think Columbus gets the victory, and I believe Orlando City will go on a bit of a run here and beat Atlanta in the playoffs. I think Atlanta will be gassed playing for that supporter shield, and Orlando City will face off against Columbus, with Orlando City winning and representing the Eastern Conference in MLS Cup final. Call me crazy. I just see the Lions doing well this season, their second season under Oscar Pareja. Now, in the Western Conference, Seattle Sounders against the Galaxy. I see the Sounders winning all day long. LAFC against Colorado. I see LAFC winning. Minnesota against Kansas City. I see Kansas City winning. So your top 4 seeds in the West will move on. Portland against Kansas City. I see Portland winning. LAFC against the Sounders. I see LAFC beating the Sounders. And for once in twice in the last 6 years, Seattle won't be representing the West. I know I'm crazy for picking against them, but I am. LAFC against Portland in the Western Conference Finals. I think it's LAFC's season this season in the Western Conference. I believe they're going to prioritize the playoffs. Bob Bradley is going to have that squad fired up for the playoffs, and I think he will kind of put the rest of the players and do a lot of rotation towards the end of the season so that the best players are available for the MLS Cup playoff run. So my team out of the West is LAFC. My team out of the East is Orlando City for MLS Cup final. And then the championship, I just detailed it for you. LAFC is my pick to win MLS Cup and lift it at home, beating Orlando City in MLS Cup final. Bob Bradley, I think he will do what it takes to get LAFC. They're going to be fired up after that run to the CONCACAF Champions League final where they lost to Tigres in December. I see LAFC doing big things this year. So that is the MLS preview and predictions. Make sure you guys subscribe down below. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any of our awesome American soccer content. And that will do it for the MLS portion of it.